I've been thinking about something this morning, and I didn't want it to drop from my mind. I think we've got people who can't accept the consequences of their actions. Here's what I mean by that. I was thinking, I'm seeing a lot of posts about it's hateful to say I'm going to hell because of this and this and this. That's hateful. Or God, why would a loving God send people to hell? And I was thinking, this reminds me when I was a teacher and students would be upset that they got an F or failed the class. And they would say, why'd you give me an F on this? And I remember telling them, I didn't give you an F, you earned an F. Like, here's the test, 20 questions, you got 3 right. You earned a 30, you know, or whatever the grade was, right? Like, no, you showed mastery of this much content. Now, if every one of my kids only got 3 out of 20 right, that's the common denominator is probably me, right? But that was not the case in these cases. And they would go home and the mom would call the school and they'd say, the teacher gave him an F. The teacher didn't give you anything. The teacher wrote the grade associated with the mastery level you showed on the test. You earned the F. You earned the A. You know, like this victim mentality, right? Like, it has nothing to do with the fact I didn't study. I hardly ever went to class. You know, that has nothing to do with it. It's the teacher's fault. And I was thinking, we do the same thing, like in sports now, right? So, especially when they're little kids, because it hurts our feelings when their feelings get hurt. And so, somebody earns first place, right? They get this trophy. But we felt bad for people who earned 7th or 8th. Give them a trophy too. Like, they can't accept the fact that they earned 7th place. So minimize the first place winner by just giving everybody a trophy, even though you earned 7th, which in the rules of this race doesn't get you a trophy, but we feel bad about that. So we'll give you a trophy anyway. Like, we start it kind of young, don't we? You know, absolving them of any responsibility to the effort or the choices that they make. We start that pretty early. And so then you have adults who, I worked at a job that was all Hindu. I was the receptionist and they were all Hindu. Ooh, the names were so rough, but I got them down so good because I was a receptionist. I had to know the names. And it was in the policy that you could not talk about religion. Like, it was in the employment. You know, when you are an employee of a company, when you agree to work there, you agree to work under their rules. And they're allowed to have rules. It's a private company. They're allowed to have rules. And there was a rule that you couldn't talk about religion. Any religion. Okay, well, I was a Christian, so I couldn't talk about that. Fine, I agreed to work there. If I had talked about Jesus or whatever, they were in their right to fire me. And even public institutions have the right to have rules. Like, if you are a public school teacher and you don't ever show up to teach, they're allowed to fire you. You earned the right to be released back to the industry because of the choices you made. And it's interesting. I feel like we start this young with our kids, absolving them from consequences. Go have all the sex you want. You might get an STD, you might get pregnant, but don't worry, still go have all the sex you want. It's become radical to say don't have sex. That's extreme. But saying kill the baby is not extreme. But saying don't have sex is extreme. Right? It's like this difference in mentality between how we deal with the consequences or benefits of our actions. that we've there's a big division there, right? I've just been thinking about this a lot because people are up in arms about the Christian faith, but also the Muslim faith. I mean, most religions have a good path and a bad path, a way to live and a way to not live, and a benefit for living this way and a consequence for living that way. It's like every religion. And it's not God sending you to hell. God actually gave you a way to avoid hell. You get to choose to take it or not. So God doesn't send you to hell. The teacher didn't give you the F. You earned the F. You earned hell. We have all earned hell by our choices. Our sin, our choices result in that consequence. God is not going to force people into his presence that don't want to be in his presence. That's your choice. But then to say it's mean to have a consequence at all to those choices, that is so backwards. That is weird to me. You're given the info, you make a choice. You're also given the info on what the consequence or benefit is of that. Read the Quran. It's pretty clear on how you're supposed to live. And it's pretty clear on what happens to you if you don't live that way. This is not new. What seems to be new is the lack of accepting the consequences. And it's not just hell. I was thinking hell is kind of a big subject, right? It's like big. It's even little things. In public school, I'm not going to say any names. Somebody was a public school teacher. He sat in the meeting at the beginning of the school year, and the school administration announced, if a student turns in nothing, give him a 60. If a student turns in nothing, give him a 60. This is public education. And teachers were pissed. They were saying a grade should be a reflection of the student's mastery. They didn't master 60% of the subject if they turned in zero work. And that is when we start, we're teaching kids that if you do nothing, in this case, we're teaching kids, if you do nothing, you get 60, which in this school system was passing, which that's jacked up too, okay? If you do nothing, you'll still pass. And when you start that young enough, they learn, my effort and my choices don't matter. I should get the same benefit as everybody else who made different choices. What's that called? Equality of outcome? It doesn't matter what you put in. Let's say you play basketball and you play against Michael Jordan. Okay, you lose. You will lose. He earned the right to win. Okay? You earned the right to lose. What's wrong with that? This is how life operates. I'm just rambling at this point. But I think there's so much to that. When we teach kids from a young age that the choices you make and the effort you put in does not dictate the result, you should still get a similar result to people who make totally different choices. Saying that that's okay and that's how life works is such a disservice to our kids, because then you raise adults who agree to certain rules under a company, under an employment contract, and then get pissed when they're held accountable to the agreement of the employment contract. Because your action shouldn't dictate the result. And we've gone wrong there, right? That's where we've gone wrong. And so instead of being mad at themselves for the choices they've made, they're mad at the person executing the consequences. And so then you have all this, well, that's hate. You hate me. You hate me because I made these choices. No, you made these choices, and so you have these benefits or consequences to it. That's not hate. That's life. That used to be life. That used to be how life worked. Now that's not how life works. I've been thinking about this a lot, and we do it in the tiniest ways. We do it. We influence our kids to become victims and to become not accountable to the effort or choices they made. We absolve them at a very young age. We absolve them of the results of their actions. And we have really gone wrong with that. And I think we're seeing a society that has no accountability to their actions or choices. Instead, these consequences are placed upon them instead of them just earning it. Okay, I'm done rambling. But I think there's a point there.